Oh my God. I just finished One Tree Hill season 3. What in the Okay, yeah, that was an insane finish. Okay, I have a whole analysis worked out here. Let me just consult my notes. Even though that finale was One Tree Hill is definitely a psychotic show for psychotic and hot people like you and me. Let's get into it. One Tree Hill season 3. Genuinely, if I get a little choked up, it was hyper emotional. And yeah, I might get choked up a little bit talking about some of the parts, some of the sadder moments on the show, some of the more touching ones. I might get a little choked up, but at least I won't get choked out like Lucas. On the whole, I think this season is the weakest of the three that I've seen. I'm watching these in real time, by the way. This isn't a retrospective. I've never watched all of One Tree Hill before. I grew up with the show. It was like a cultural marker from my youth. You know, I was a teenager when the show was on, but I didn't like watch it religiously. But I knew about it, and I knew who like Chad Michael Murray was and Hillary Burton. Like I knew who they were and who their characters were in the show, but I never watched it. So making up for lost times, and I'm really enjoying myself. Season 3 was really good, but my God, it got really fucking out of hand really fast. But season 3 is the one that made me cry like 3 or 4 times. Okay, so while I might like season 2 more, I was definitely hit by season 3 really hard. So, yeah. Lucas, he says this quote. I think it's an Aldous Huxley quote from Brave New World, I think. The mockery made him an outsider, and feeling an outsider made him behave like one. So let's start with our reading of Lucas, who is quickly becoming my favorite character. One of my favorite characters ever, period, in anything. My favorite One Tree Hill characters are definitely Lucas and Peyton. That's also my favorite couple, for sure. There's something immediate. There's something electric about Chad Michael Murray and Hillary Burton. There's something electrifying about Lucas Scott and Peyton Sawyer. Every kiss is charged, right? Their chemistry is shocking. It's very bright and it's undeniable. You know, that's why I don't have any problems with Lucas and Peyton, with Peyton coming over the course of this season to find out that she does love Lucas. She does need Lucas. Lucas saves her all the time. Lucas rescues her from being meaningless because he can see her and understand her and also define her. And she is someone who's so lonely and just wants to be understood. And Lucas is the only one who definitely does. That's why I don't feel too bad about Peyton's decision to tell Brooke that she still has feelings for Lucas, that she's still in love with Lucas. I think that Peyton is being incredibly honest here. I believe in love, and I believe in undeniable conclusions, which form these undeniable truths. And that's what love is. If you find the person that you're supposed to be with forever, if you find your soulmate, you know, if you find someone that you love, it doesn't really matter about the circumstances of the situation. You owe it to yourself to live. You know, don't miss an opportunity. Don't miss a chance to live. Every song ends, but does that mean we can't enjoy it? Every song should also start. Every song should have a chance to play. Lucas and Peyton are my favorite couple, and the chemistry between Chad Michael Murray and Hillary Burton is one of the most fantastic that I've ever seen. It's incredibly electric. That's the only word for it. Chad Michael Murray and Hillary Burton, Lucas Scott and Peyton Sawyer, these are electric characters, and you can feel the love and the tenderness. It's very passionate for me. Lucas is a fascinating character. Lucas believes that if society tortures him, it won't torture anyone else, and that's fair. That's a fair trade in his eyes. He's Lucas, the outsider with a heart defect. He's genetically incapable, the master of his fate, the captain of his soul. So season 2 ended with Dan being set on fire and drugged in his office and left for dead. Lucas saves his life, and he is thanked by Dan. He's rewarded for saving his father's life by having his father choke him out in the school gymnasium. No, no, no. Lucas is the most punished character in television history. He has his heart broken several times in this season. Oh, by the way, Chris Keller is the most unlikable fucking character I've ever seen on a television show. Wow, Chris Keller, fucking die and don't come back, please. Brooke is is a lesser person for sleeping with him. Holy shit. Fuck Chris Keller. I hate Chris Keller. At least in season 2, he was fucking with Nathan. And I still thought he was a piece of shit then, but now he's fucking with my boy, Lucas. You can go die for all I care, you fucking poser. But Chad Michael Murray's Lucas, he's also got this heart defect. He inherited nothing from his ultra rich elitist father except for a heart condition that could kill him. A heart condition that conflicts with his ultimate passion of basketball, that prohibits him from participating in and identifying like the sport that granted him his identity. He believes he's the master of his own fate, the captain of his soul, but he's fucking not. And he realizes that through this season that he can't do it. That Dan's imprint, that Dan will always have his hands around his throat. Always, just like he did in the gym. Dan is one of the greatest villains I've ever seen. We can only do this video for so long before I bring up what I assume this season is best known for, which is the school shooting episode, which is psychotic, for sure. Jimmy Edwards, I think his name is, fat, phony, stupid dork, decided to, I don't know, violently reject the class social stratification of one tree of Tree Hill High or whatever. Fuck him, he sucks. But what amazed me most about that episode is there's two moments that make it valid, because I don't think it sincerely tackles the mass shooting or school shooting epidemic. I don't think it sincerely tackles it, not at all. And if you do, then you need to fucking wake up, because it's just a psychotic episode with some truly psychotic things about it. But one of them's brilliant. A moment that's beautiful is a moment between Lucas and Peyton in the library where she says, "You're always rescuing me." And that moment is so electric. It is full of passion, and it's full of desperation that only makes sense to young people in love. And it transported me back to like scenarios of being like 15 to 17 years old and feeling like it's all or nothing, putting everything on the line. I want you. That sort of thing. I thought that was a really genuine treatment of the desperation of young love, and the electric chemistry between those two is undeniable, and I love it. But what shocked me the most about the school shooting episode is that by the end of the episode where Keith confronts the shooter, the active shooter, and the shooter, he kills himself, and Dan finds Keith. You know what happens. Dan shoots Keith, makes it look like the school shooter did it. Dan kills his own brother because Dan thinks that Keith is the one who lit him on fire when it was actually his wife, Deb. If you've watched the other videos, I don't like Keith, but doesn't mean I wanted him to be murdered. It's no great loss to me. I do like how his death affects each member of the One Tree Hill ensemble. I think that's an interesting look. But the balls on the showrunner here, like you're making an episode about a school shooting, and you even have like the cute little parental discretion advised. We have resources for help. Bullshit at the beginning, and like you're treating it as if it is like a special episode, like a special topics. But all you're really doing is using a very real situation, a very real series of tragedies like mass shootings, and you're applying a plot device to it. You're giving it I can't even say it. It's kind of genius, but it's mostly psychotic. The, it's in the guise of a special episode, but all it's truly doing is capitalizing on the um, hot button issues of the times to make a huge character death even more eventful. It's like doubling down on the sensationalism of it all. The showrunner, who I think personally wrote the episode, the showrunner's got some shit wrong with his head. That's why I'm not saying his name, because he doesn't really deserve respect. But man, he does deserve some awe. I was astounded that he used a school shooting, like a very like a school shooting plot, in order to wrap up this Greek tragedy between two brothers. He used it's a fucking Trojan horse, man. It pretend One Tree Hill in that episode is pretending to say something large about the anxiety of young people and the alienation of outcasts, of teenage outcasts, and how they can be weaponized and shit like that. It pretends to be talking about that, but all it's really doing is leading towards a moment where the showrunner can kill off a major character with as many eyes on it as possible, and it kind of builds off of the like inherent built-in intrinsic tragedy of school shootings to do it. And I'm like, this is one of the most brilliant character deaths I've ever seen. It's one of the most psychotic ones I've ever seen. It's one of the most like selfish things I've ever seen a writer do, but my god, it works. It fucking works. Oh my god. It does lead to one of my cries. Yeah, I had several cries during the season. It's fucking hypersensitive. It's a hyper emotional show. One of my cries was not the fact that Keith was dead, but when Lucas and the street crew pull up to Jimmy's funeral, and Lucas and the outcast group that we first saw Lucas with at the beginning of the entire show, they console Jimmy's mother who is standing alone. I started to cry because it made part of the like political language of the show come into like full exposure for me. And the idea that Dan used that weaponized outcast as an excuse to exact petty revenge. Which is definitely something that happens politically. Political power moves are always being played at the sites of mass shootings. So it's wild, right? Because much like the writers are using that, I should say writer, the showrunner is using that as an excuse to have a controversial death on his show. The character in it, Dan, is hijacking that event to exact, like I said, petty revenge, and I think it's I think that's pretty complicated. I don't think that it says anything cohesive or substantial about what makes school shooters, what makes alienated people violent. I don't think it says anything interesting about that, but it does say a lot of interesting things about structure, about plot, and about politics with that episode. And I guess that's the most important episode this season. It feels like most of it is leading towards that episode, and then it's the trauma afterwards that kind of pulls people apart and brings others closer together. Another time that I cried was okay, let's talk about Brooke really quick. Brooke was challenged in this show by a new character called Rachel, who I kind of liked. My problem with Rachel was that I do like those wrecking ball archetypes, those Abby Morgans, those Nickies, those characters who come in and try to mess up a perfectly good scenario. There's a house of cards. This character comes in and just blows on it because it's funny and watches all the pieces fall. Rachel was like that. Rachel was also pretty hot, so it was fun looking at her as well. But Rachel feels like she was 8 different characters consolidated into one rather clumsily. This wasn't all supposed to be the same fucking person doing all of these things. There's no way I believe that. Because, I mean, it's such a contradictory character. But she is the challenger to Brooke. Brooke does go through some stuff this season. She does cry a lot more than she did in the previous season. But still, compared to like Lucas and Peyton, not a whole lot of punishment. But I did cry when Brooke is given basically, like she has to choose between what she wants to stay in New York and exhibit some of her designs at a fashion show, or to come back to Tree Hill for a cheerleading competition. And she chooses to go back to the cheerleading competition. Of course, this was all some sort of manipulative ruse set up by Rachel to out Brooke as the captain of the cheerleaders, because Rachel wanted that position. But the part that made me cry is at the competition, several of the cheerleaders like fuck up. They mess up, and it's like a big deal for like half a second. And then Brooke does her, Sophia Bush puts on that perfect smile, and it like starts doing the robot up there. And then there's this real genuine feeling of elation and liberation and youthfulness, and that all the other cheerleaders like start to like just be natural too, and just have fun and be 17, be fucking kids. And it's this whole shared experience. It's an accomplishment on the show. It's a moment where a fuck up doesn't lead to punishment. It's a moment where the characters aren't punished, and even the male basketball players that get on the stage, the opposing teams and cheerleaders share the stage as well. It's like a moment of accomplishment from a show that is hyper fixated on punishing its archetypes. That's a moment where everyone, without prejudice, is championed, and they're allowed to dance and be kids, even if it's just for 90 seconds, a brief musical montage, a brief dance. And I love it. And it made me cry because I'm not used to accomplishments with no strings attached like that moment was. Yeah, this show is hyper obsessed with punishing its characters, and it does punish all of them, but it's really devoted to punishing Lucas and Peyton the most. Um, no competition at all. Peyton meets her biological mother, played by Cheryl Lee of Twin Peaks, a television show that is terrible and awful. So I'm very glad she was able to be in One Tree Hill, an actually great show. And Cheryl Lee was wonderful. It was very heartbreaking seeing her die while listening to The Replacements' Here Comes a Regular, a song that already makes me choke up a little bit because Westerberg was so touching when he was in his prime. And also, that character had shared that listening to that song at a Replacements show was the moment she felt most alive. And it's the song she's listening to when she's about to die. And Peyton is just punished over and over again, except for when she gets to date Pete Wentz. There's like no consequence that comes from dating Pete Wentz. Yes, Pete Wentz is a fucking love interest on this show. Pete Wentz as Pete Wentz from Fallout Boy, or as Peyton's dad calls him, get out of town boy, because dad is fucking based. But Ugh, she has to fuck around with Jake and Savannah, and I'm so happy that that she finally realized she loved Lucas. Now we can stop fucking around, and every scene could be electrifying. Every scene could be on fire with the kind of passion that only Lucas and Peyton could convey. I can't wait for season 4. Honestly, it might destroy me, but I'm ready for it. I don't ever want to see Jake again. I was over it fucking long ago. I don't want to see that guy again. Fuck off. Fuck off and die. I don't like Jake. Peyton. I love Peyton. I love her to death. There's that episode where she spends most of it, maybe even all of it, just talking to the goth of Christmas past, as she calls it, like the darker part of herself, the dark angel, who convinces her to reach out to Ellie, her biological mother. It's a fascinating kind of subject there. But Lucas, no character is punished more than Lucas Scott. And I'll get into that in a moment. I do have to talk about Nathan and Hayley. This is their redemption season. The fucking finale really fucks with my analysis, because it really is a redemption arc for Nathan and Hayley. They grow to love each other again. They get remarried, and it is pretty sweet and it's pretty loving. And Hayley it's not only asking for forgiveness from Nathan, but she's asking for forgiveness from people like myself or like Peyton on the show, who really did hate her for what she did in season 2 with Chris Keller and abandoning her marriage to go on tour. I thought that was very immature, very naive, and very selfish. And in this season, she got my forgiveness. She won my heart again. My favorite dynamic on the entire show, apart from Chad Michael Murray and Hilary Burton's romantic one, is the friendship between Lucas and Hayley. I think that that's so full of truth and like a really good chemistry that I like to vibe with. That is friendly and warm and welcoming. I really like that. And I completely forgave Hayley for what she did in the previous season, and I actually believed it to be an organic sort of remorse and change, demonstrated by Bethany Joy. And I really liked it. Of course, in the last episode, they get married, and then immediate punishment. You know, his fucking uncle drives off the side of the road with Rachel in the car in a limo, and they're like drowning to death. And now Nathan's trying to save them, like drowning to death. Like I said, I don't know what happens, but it's not a dream wedding, though. Not at all. It's not particularly ideal. But speaking of ideal, the idealized forms this season, as opposed to the first two, have so many dreams in them. Like the cold opens are these dreams. They're mostly nightmares. It's the idealized form of a post 9/11 America that is just, oh my god, invaded on by all sides by gun violence and fucking like masculine virtue and war and famine and fucked up everythings of 9/11 and terrorism, right? Like it's a world. I know this because I grew up in this decade as a teenager. I must have been like 15 when this season was on. Everything was unpredictable. Everything felt unfair, and life felt random. It didn't feel moral. It felt random. If something good happened to you or if something bad happened to you, it was luck. It was just a randomizer. There was no God. There was just something crazy happening at all times. Or if there was something, no one could clearly define it. Because as you see on One Tree Hill, faith is also being lost. While there is some sort of nostalgic mournfulness that certain characters look back at, or they view families who pray before dinner as something that is, what am I trying to say, as something that is admirable. They don't necessarily think it is effective. Not really. Not when these characters get punished for everything, and life and death, it just seems so fucking random. Everything is so unpredictable. You don't feel safe. You're not safe at school, as demonstrated by the school shooting episode of One Tree Hill. You're not safe in society because it is fixed and rigged so that certain men like Dan Scott could accumulate all of the wealth and power that he possibly can and abuse all others less fortunate than him. You are not safe in a global sense because 9/11 put terrorism under a magnifying glass. Your options are limited. Love is limited due to class stratification. Can you transcend these roles? You can if you're Lucas. If you're Lucas, you can try to transcend it, to find a new sincerity. You can try to be absorbed by the status quo and start to truly affect that status quo by interacting with certain components in ways that are sensitive and truthful, that inspire those components to act more sensitive and truthful to others. But what happens to Lucas over and over again is that he gets punished for every single thing that he does, good or bad. If I were Lucas, I would be a complete nihilist. But the fact that Lucas isn't makes him one of the greatest heroes in TV. The fact that he still wakes up every day and believes that things are going to be better, believes with beyond doubt, without fear, no matter what life is thrown at him, which is nothing good. It's never given him anything good, but possibly just he's hot. You know, that's the only gift from God he ever got in life. Everything else has been like a punch in the face. Lucas still wakes up every day and he tries to rescue the world from itself. And he's been drawn, attracted to a certain flame, to Peyton, this part of the inner group, this part of the clique, this part of the cheerleaders that feels an outsider at heart. He's attracted to that flame because maybe outsider groups are the most truthful, and outsiders attract other outsiders. Because when you're with someone else, you're no longer an outsider. You are wanted, you are loved, you are held. And maybe we shouldn't have elite groups anymore. Maybe social hierarchies, maybe they shouldn't exist. Maybe the only thing that matters is love, always love. Hate will get you every time. Not a surf was here. Bunch of bands were here. Bunch of fucking bands were here, actually. Lucas's mom went through a lot, considering that Keith died and she's pregnant now. Fucking, why not? You know, why not? Everyone has to cry. That's One Tree Hill. One thing I noticed was that I think halfway through the show, this season, Sunkissed, the soda, definitely started heavily sponsoring it. Because Sunkissed was like everywhere on t-shirts, on billboards, on signs, in people's hands at all times. Like, god damn it. It would be less noticeable if it wasn't so loud and orange. But whatever, get your money where you can. I also teared up when Lucas finally told his mom about his heart condition, because of course he was playing without being on his medication because Dan refused to pay for it anymore after the events of season 2. So every time he would play basketball, he would be running the risk of death. But he'd rather die than live inauthentically, or to have something. He wants to be in control of his life, but you know, maybe maturity, coming of age, is learning that it's really scary, because you don't want to feel helpless, but sometimes the world makes you spiral, and that makes Lucas spiral all the time. I love the kid. I love the character so much. But I cried when he finally told his mom that he had it. And dude, like, oh my god, the Moira Kelly and Chad Michael Murray acting against each other in that scene was like so fucking intense. Like, he's like, oh man, dude. He's like, I'm scared, dude. I can't. He didn't say I'm scared, dude. He was pretty eloquent, but like hyper emotional about it. And it's very unexpected when Lucas yells, because he is a character who is pretty. He's a brooding kind of character. He's a bit softer. He's extremely sensitive, but when he yells, it's something you're not really used to, and it cuts. It's a cutting thing, and that scene made me cry. Then I think the last cry from me, yeah, dude, it doesn't play fair. Okay, One Tree Hill does not play fair with its melodrama. It made me cry quite a few times. The last time, and I think the most effective and also like meaningful time it made me cry was when Peyton was realizing that she has always loved Lucas. It's always been Lucas. And she has this miniature, like Lucas highlight reel in the form of a flashback. And it's just all of those different times that the energy was electric, as I keep calling it, all those different electric moments from the show. And seeing those all compiled together, one after the other, was too much for my heart to take. I was like, oh my god, this is perfect. This is fucking magic. I want to see love. And I want to see that forever. I really, really, really am affected emotionally by this show, and I think it's great. I can see you, showrunner and writers. I know what you're doing. It works, but like, fucking be nicer to me and your characters. I'm just hoping that, like, Lucas is punished. It's a long and winding list of punishments. I hope to God I get a true accomplishment. If you let Lucas succeed once now, show, if you let him succeed once in a way that is meaningful, in a way that means something, if you let him succeed, if you give him one accomplishment after giving him fucking countless amounts of failures, I I will forever be in your debt. Like, that's the way to do it perfectly. But you gotta give him an accomplishment soon, or else I'm gonna start to become numb. Because Lucas has gone through so much pain. If he doesn't have an accomplishment soon, like a big accomplishment, like fireworks, you know what I mean? If he doesn't have that, then that's where you fucked up because you got me in a very vulnerable place right now. And the smart thing to do would be for season 4 to have an accomplishment, to have victory for once for Lucas. And you know what? For Peyton, she definitely needs it too. It's not like she's ever in a good place ever. Rachel and Peyton. Like the show is still trying to gaslight me into believing that NoFX is hot girl music. Bitch, I went to high school in this time period. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. I don't care if Rachel is trying to trade drunken public bootleg CDs, burned CDs with Peyton. It's didn't fuck you and your fantasies. I have them too, but come on. It's like every fucking season you have to try to make me think that Fat Mike was speaking to pretty girls' hearts. He's not. It's Fat Mike is fucking. I like him. I like NoFX a lot. I just these That's the most unrealistic part of the show, to have two really hot cheerleaders like gossiping and trading fucking no effects bootleg CDs. It's nice. It's a fantasy that I might share with whoever keeps writing that shit in there. That's me inside your head, baby. One Tree Hill season 3 was very good. I think that season 2 and season 1 are both better than season 3 because season 3 it works. It really works, but it had to do some pretty devious things structurally and thematically to make all of the punches land. Every punch landed. Like I'm KO'd. I'm knocked the fuck out by the emotional exhaustion of the characters on the show. I'm devastated. Bravo. But but you cheated to get there, guys. You really did. You cheated to get there. And while I can admire the shamelessness of some of the tactics, the emotional ones that were used to get the tears from me, I admire them, but I don't necessarily appreciate them. To make this show beautiful, season 4, it's your time. It's your chance. Let these characters shine. I've seen them cry for 3 years, for 3 seasons. I want to see them smile. I want to see them kiss. And I want everything to feel electric. And I guess I'll let you know how I feel next time I see you when I'm back talking about One Tree Hill Season 4. I really hope you appreciated this video. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. This has been my One Tree Hill Season 3 analysis. Thank you so much for watching, and I am spent. That's it. I'm out. I have a lot of fun doing these videos. See you guys at Season 4.